Everyone, in this video, we are going to go through the local post-secondary pathways for students who are taking the O-level track or O-level exams, or the G3 students taking mostly G3 subjects for cohort, the FSBB cohort. Okay, so for students who are taking mostly G3 subjects, as of now, 2025, you can use your L1R5 6 subjects to apply for JC. And in JC, there are two kinds of courses offered. You can choose between A levels or IB. So currently we have 20 JCs. Only two JCs, ACSI and SJI, offer the IB program. The other JCs, they offer A levels. Both are usually 2 years. If you want to spread your 2-year syllabus into a longer 3-year A-level program, you can do so at Millenia Institute. It is also considered similar to JC, but you use your L1R4, 5 subjects to apply for it. And why students would want to pursue this option is, firstly, some of them, they feel that 2-year program could be quite stressful. The school hours can be quite long. You want to spread it out and pace yourself over 3 years so that you have more free time to pursue your interests and hobbies outside of school. You may be able to do so at MI. Then students who prefer a more skills-based education, you can also opt for the Polytechnic's diploma. So A-levels IB are not work-ready certifications. Usually students have to continue on to a degree program in the universities before they can graduate and start finding jobs. But for Polytechnic diplomas, it is work-ready, it is recognized by employers in Singapore. So you can start work immediately. If you are tired of studying, you want to have some real-life experience in a company, you may be able to do so. To enter Polytechnic, you use 5 subjects, EL R2B2. EL means that English is compulsory. Unlike JC and MI, you can choose between your English or higher mother tongue for your L1. So R2B2, R2 stands for relevant subject, same for JCs. B2 means any other best 2. Relevant subjects means depending on the course that you want to apply for, the secondary school subjects, some of them, they are met to be more related for the course in poly. So you use those subjects. And finally, for students who have specialized interests in performing arts, visual arts, fine arts, or in sports, you can opt to go for NAFA LaSalle for the students who are pursuing arts. They also offer diploma program like Polytechnics, and they have their own degree programs as well. So they are both like a poly and a uni institution. Then in sports school, they have the JC track and the Polytechnic track. So for JC, they only offer IB program. For diploma program, they have diploma in business. So not too many courses to choose from. We will go through each of them in detail. Okay, first we will talk about JCs and MI. What is the course syllabus like? So for JC A-level program, as of now, the eligibility to apply, L1R5 cannot exceed 20 points. Eligibility is different from the likelihood of entering each JC. So each JC, they have their own cut-off scores. You have to look at their net aggregate on the MOE Course Finder website to find out what is the likelihood of entering the JC, because each JC have limited vacancies. So it doesn't mean everyone who gets 20 points will be able to enter all JCs of their choice. The syllabus includes the compulsory subjects like GP General Paper, which is a bit of English and Social Studies. Then PW stands for Project Work. In the past, it was graded, but now you just need to pass it to apply for local unis. Mother tongue language, there's an asterisk there. because if you are taking higher mother tongue in secondary school and you pass it, then you do not have to take mother tongue anymore in JC. But if you are taking the mother tongue or mother tongue B syllabus, then you still have to continue taking it in the first year of JC until you pass. Then you can choose a subject combination under the 4 content-based subjects, out of which you have to take 1 H1 and 3 H2 level subjects. Maximum, most students can only take 1 H1 subject. Some students, if they are applying for a scholarship, the scholarship might require you to take all 4 H2 subjects. If you take 4 H2 subjects, then your weakest H2 will be calculated as a H1 when you apply for entry into local universities. So what does H1, H2, H3 means? It refers to the difficulty level. H1 is the easiest. Then most of the subjects are at H2 level. There is also H3. It is not compulsory for everyone, and it is not offered for all subjects at all JCs. If you are interested in H3, you can check the JC website. What are the subjects that are being offered? And usually, only if you do very well for JC1 for that subject, end of the year, then the school will ask you, do you want to take it at the H3 level in JC2? It is research based in nature. So if you have interest to work in research or in academia when you graduate, then you can consider taking history subjects. Okay, so different JCs, they offer different subject combination similar to our secondary schools. You can check the JC that you're interested in for the combination on their website and the requirements. So some new subjects that are different from secondary school are things like economics, and knowledge and inquiry, KI. Then the A-level program in general, it is more in-depth. So what you're studying now, for example, you're taking physics, then it will be even more theoretical in JC. So this is an example. Currently you are learning more about understanding, memorizing formulas. Next time in JC, you might even have to explain how you derive that formula and also analyze a particular scenario and apply that formula. So if you're taking literature, again, now O levels is more of remembering, applying. Next time you have to evaluate. Okay, so now I will use Victoria JC as an example because it is closer to the 2 schools that I'm supporting. So for VJC art stream, in JC itself, no matter what stream you go, art stream or science stream, you have to take a subject. One of the 4 subjects that you're taking has to be from the other stream. So in VJ, all their students have to take math. Math is compulsory. So even if you go art stream, you still have to take math. There's no option for you to choose a science for your contrasting subject. Other JCs, they might let you choose between a math or a science. Then if you go to the science stream, if you take a look at the offerings that they have, there is something called a hybrid options. So S5 and S6 are considered hybrid because you only take 1 science subject instead of 2, and you can choose economics, or you have to choose economics as well as math. So please check the JC websites for the combinations offered before you apply to that JC. Then now we use Temasek JC as an example. On their website, they even indicated for you if you want to take particular subject at the H1 or H2 level, what score or what grade you have to get for your O levels before you can apply for that. And some subjects, for example, biology, some students ask, it's just pure memorization. If I don't take it in secondary school, can I take it in JC? You can see on the screen that no, they would prefer you to have O level bio for your foundation. However, if you want to take English literature in JC and you currently did not take it in upper secondary, it is possible for you to take elite in JC, provided you do well enough in your English for your O levels. So the grade for TJ is B3. You can check other JCs, they might have similar or different grades. Okay, so how do we decide what subject to take at H1 or H2 level? Besides, what are your academic strengths? Do you score well enough to meet the criteria to take it at H1 and H2? One very important factor is what subject and at which level do you need for entry into the university course that you're interested in. Because JC, Poly is a stepping stone for you, especially JC and MI, is a stepping stone for you to enter university courses. So check the university course you're interested in, what subjects are compulsory before you make your decision. Because some students, maybe you are quite strong in math, you take H2 in math, but your future course doesn't really require H2 math. Then you might have missed out on a subject that is required for your H2 and you didn't take it, then you won't be eligible to apply for that particular course. So one example is you see on the screen NUS architecture. There are compulsory subjects you need a H1 pass in chemistry, math or physics. Then that means that if you have taken H2 in any of these subjects, you also can apply. But if the course requires you to have a H2 in chemistry and you didn't take it in JC, then you won't be able to apply no matter how you appeal for it, unless that course offers a foundation course for you. So please check the university website for more information. If not, you can email them if you have any queries. Then there are a number of students who ask me, should I just take all 4 H2? Because it will look better because I'm taking everything at a higher level. Do you really think so? Firstly, some JCs, they need all their students to take 4 H2. If you cannot cope, then you drop one of them to H1. Or maybe you apply for scholarship, you definitely need 4 H2. But other than that, if you take a look at the IGP of university courses, IGP stands for Indicative Grade Profile. It means the maximum and minimum grades of students who are accepted into each course. The example you see on the screen, medicine, 10 percentile, 90th percentile means the top student and the minimum grades you need to have a higher chance to apply for that course. Top student, the worst, so-called worst performing student, everyone has to get 4 A's. So if you take 4 H2, the one, as you see on the legend, right, the slash means that last subject is the H1 subject. To make it fair for everyone, because not every student takes 4 H2 subjects. So if you need all A's to get into that course, are you likely to score all A's for your 4 H2 subject? If so, please go ahead. But maybe you are not strong in every single subject. And it is easier to score an A for a H1 subject compared to a H2 subject. So if you need A to enter that course, then you have to make the decision, should you take it at a H1 or H2 level? Because even if you take it at H2 level, but you score a C for that subject, it doesn't increase your chance of entering that course. So this is something to take note. Then courses, for example, bioengineering, best student all A, worst performing student B, C, C, D. So again, do you need 4 H2 to enter the subject? If it is easier for you to score A's for your H1 subject. If you really love that subject, you want to learn more about it, no matter how well you perform, then go ahead, take it at H2 level. H2 level, your content will be heavier, so you get to learn more. But if grades matter to you because the course you want to enter is popular or is very competitive, then you have to make the judgment. Okay. And another question that students like to ask, nowadays we are trying to reduce the emphasis on academic grades and have more time to pursue your interests outside of school. So, should you force yourself to take 8 subjects when now the requirement for entry into local universities do not need 8 subjects? Does it mean that you take 8 subjects, you are more capable? Again, it depends on what you want out of the subjects. Is it because you really have a thirst for knowledge, want to learn more about that particular area, or you I don't care how well you perform, you just want to go for it? Because at the end of the day, the people who assess your application, be it for scholarship, be it for entry into a course or your job application in future, they do not count the number of subjects you take. If you do well for all your subjects, then of course it is great. You score all A for 8 subjects. But if you score C's and D's for 8 subjects compared to another student who score all A's for 6 subjects, which one do you think looks better for the person assessing your application? So that's one thing to take note. Then ability to strategize is also an indicator of intelligence or ability. So if you're able to strategize, plan your time well, uh, get all A's for your 6 subjects, or even maybe you have some B's and C's for your 6 subjects, but you have a strong portfolio. You join a lot of activities outside of school. Then that combined together would be would show your capabilities to the assessor and not just doing well in academic subjects. Okay, another common questions that students have is on biology because they feel that only medical or healthcare students need to take this subject. Again, you check the entry requirements either for the local or overseas university courses or the job that you want to apply to in future. Nowadays, a lot of fields they need bio knowledge. For example, food science. Singapore is trying to grow our own food sources so that we don't rely on imports, which sometimes could be disrupted due to economic or political tensions in the globally. So, food science is one big area where they will need bio knowledge, and sustainability, environmental science also needs or good to have bio knowledge. So nowadays, bio is not just for healthcare students. Fourth most common questions asked by students: should you go to science even though you are stronger in humanities? For humanities students, I use our local Singapore universities for example. You can take a look that there are many course options for you. For example, if you have interest in history, you can have so many courses for you to consider. And after you graduate, these are the industries that will tap on history knowledge or history graduates. So the industries indicated on the screen again is just some suggestions. It is not limited to this. There are so many options for you. So as long as again you are able to develop your skill set, you do not have to worry what is your educational qualifications. In Singapore, most employers they you have to go through an application interview process. So that will matter more than paper qualifications. Of course, paper qualification is a starting point, but it is not an ending point. Okay, so just now we mentioned the JC 2-year A-level program. Now we briefly go through 3-year A-level at MI. Uh, all JCs, they have mainly two tracks, art stream, science stream. At MI, they have a third commerce track where you can learn business or management or accounting. So the L1 five subjects cannot exceed 20 points, and you also have to meet the subject requirement indicated on the screen. All this information you can find on the MOE portal. Okay, now we go through IB. IB is offered at two JCs in Singapore plus the international schools. So IB stands for International Baccalaureate. What is the advantage or difference in between IB and A levels? So usually, uh, if you have interest to go overseas to study, IB is internationally recognized, as the name suggests. So you do not have to send your subjects to a conversion center or to take a local standardized testing in that country. They will accept IB and they will recognize and know how to convert it. However, A levels, we are following the UK Cambridge system. So countries that also follow the same system, such as Australia and maybe Hong Kong, they would recognize A levels. But countries like America, USA, some European countries, they do not know what is A levels. So it is more troublesome for you. You might have to take another testing or you have to convert your grade somewhere else. Unless the university that you want to enter, they already has a large pool of international students, so they are familiar with A-level system. Otherwise, it is more challenging. You can check the university website to find out more. If you cannot find anything on that, you may have to email them. And if you cannot find anything, there is a high likelihood that they do not have experience taking in A level or students who have graduated from A levels. Okay, so for IB curriculum, uh, is a little bit different from A levels. Just now you saw you have about 2 to 3 compulsory subjects and 4 content-based subjects. For IB, their compulsory subject is on the left. Creativity Action Service, something like your VIA. You go out to the community, you do a project. Then there is also extended essays, theory of knowledge. These 3 are mandatory for all students. Then you can choose your subject combination of the 5 or 6 on your right. So the two IB JCs, they offer slightly different subject combination. Go and check their website for more information. They offer subjects that are not available in A levels, for example, psychology and business management. Then one uh, highlight of IB, as you can see, you might have seen, noticed something that's common or that keeps appearing, which is there's a lot of language writing essay involved in IB program. So it's recommended if you are stronger in your language or humanities uh, in before you apply for IB. Otherwise, you have to be prepared that you will be required to do all this. So the 6 subjects that you choose on the right, you can also choose between the standard level or the higher level. Instead of H1, H2, H3, they call it SL and HL. Okay, so these are the schools that are offering IB program. Uh, for SOTA, they have 2 kinds of IB. IBDP, diploma, is offered similarly to the other schools. IBCP is a fine arts program. Both of them, for SOTA, you can only apply through DSA, which is the direct school admission, and not through your O-level results. Okay, before we go on to the polytechnics, I would like to share an anecdote with you. If you recognize the gentleman on the screen, he is the inventor of the light bulb, and Mr. Thomas Edison. One unique quirk about him, as legend has it, I don't know how true it is. Before he interview job candidates, he liked to watch them eat a bowl of soup. Soup. Like, uh, and why do you think so? That's because he wants to see whether before they even taste the soup, will they habitually add salt and pepper to it? Why? Because he doesn't want uh, or he wants to avoid hiring employees who rely on pre-assumption. You haven't even tasted, because all the soups are cooked by different people, they would taste differently. So before even trying it out, does it suit your taste? You go and add salt and pepper. What if it makes it more salty or saltier than it already is? So why am I telling you this? Is because many students, especially if you have siblings or cousins from older generation, they might tell you that polytechnics are only for students who don't do well for their O levels, or they are unable to apply to the JC or that they want, or even apply to JC. Then there's another group of students who think that poly is only for students who very sure of what they want. Then they go poly. Uh, let's take a look at the next few slides before you think whether this is true. Okay, in Polytechnic, we have 5 polytechnics in Singapore. All of them offer about 9 clusters of studies. Some poly specialize in one or two of them. Then polytechnics are different from JCs in that it is about experiential learning, not so much about theories, exams, memorization. But you will have chance to study in a classroom that is simulated like a work environment, and at least 6 months to a year you will also go for internship in a real company and organization, so that you would know how you how the system works based on the industry that you are applying for. Then the entry requirement, just now we mentioned 5 subjects, ERO R2 B2 should not exceed 26. Nursing is 28 points. Then this is your eligibility to apply, so you can include your CCA points, either 1 or 2, and you have to meet the minimum entry requirements for each course. So for example, you see on the screen, the rightmost column is the minimum entry requirement. That means this is the compulsory you have to meet before you can apply for the particular course. So usually, like applied sciences, the relevant subjects will be sciences, and pass or fail really depends on what course it is. So science courses, your pass for English means D7, but for other courses, pass for English could be C6, for example. So go and check the MOE course finder for more information. Then you see this column, net aggregate with all the numbers, means your likelihood of entering into the course based on how well you perform and how well the rest of the cohort perform. So same as JC. To enter each JC, they have their own cut score. Each poly course has their own cut scores as well. So check the poly website or MOE course finder for more info. These numbers might fluctuate from year to year, depending on how popular it is. As you can see, some courses, their grades can be as low as 3 to 4 points. 3 to 4 points for 5 subjects. After deducting CCA means they have likely scored A1 for all their subjects. Instead of choosing to go to a top JC, they are applying to Polytechnic. So nowadays, Polytechnics are no longer just a backup option. These students see the value of a hands-on skills-based learning, and which they find it more relevant to what you want to do in future compared to study very theoretical subjects. Okay, so some common questions. Students say, if I choose the poly course for 3 years and I end up not liking it, will it limit my options, or will I be stuck in this field forever? Not really. If you want to further studies in university after poly, and you check the university course requirements, and you can see that most of the courses, they accept all diplomas. That means, doesn't mean you have to study architecture in poly before you can study architecture in university, as long as you have passed the course. Okay, then this is a comparison table between poly and JC. Some of you might not fully agree with it because this is not concrete information provided by any official websites, but based on the experiences of students who have graduated, and they share what is the difference. In Polytechnic, as we mentioned, at least 6 months to 1 year, you are placed in a work attachment, and if you continue on to a similar or related course in university, sometimes you get module exemption. So for JC, a lot of them are trying to come up with programs for students to experience some form of work attachment as well. But JC students, they really do not have much time because they are preparing for the big A-level exam. So most of these work attachments are very short, touch and go, maybe work shadowing for a few days, and only for selected students. What we are going to share here is not to convince you that poly or JC is better, but to help you compare which learning style suits your own preference the most. Okay, then in JC, you get more support from teachers. The way that JC functions very similar secondary school. You still have to wear school uniform, you have to a fixed timetable to follow, but you also get school support. In Polytechnic, it is self-directed learning. So most of the time you have to study the course material before you even go for the course, so that any questions you have, you can ask during the lecture or the tutorial itself. This method of learning is also practiced in universities. So some students like to use poly as a training ground for them. They know what to do next time when they go university. If not, you might see a lot of lost students from JC on their first week in school. They are not very sure what they're supposed to do, but all the poly students, they are already very used and adjusted to that kind of environment. As we mentioned earlier, JC, you have a fixed timetable planned by the school, but in Polytechnic, it really depends on your course. Some courses, they have 5 days of school. Some courses, or maybe year 2 or year 3 onwards, you have less and less days in school. You have more time either to do part-time job, do projects. So the timetable is, for that 3 years, is very different from your JC and secondary school timetable. Then in JC, there is training for project management only in year 1, JC 1. In Poly, depending on your course, some courses they have more projects, some courses not really. So it depends. And finally, for JC, the classrooms and the whole school structure, very similar secondary school, not much changes. But in Polytechnic, many of the rooms for the courses, they make it look like your real world environment. So some students find that it's easier for them to imagine how it looks like rather than read from a textbook how it looks like. Okay. Some of the myths provided by students who have graduated, they told me that they have heard only top 10% of poly graduates can enter university. That was true only during the very long ago generation, before we had 6 autonomous universities. Back in the past, we only have 2 or 3 universities. So everyone has to fight for a spot. Nowadays, you have 6. The population also getting smaller. You see all the primary schools are merging. JCs are also merging. So you don't have to fight for a place in universities anymore. And the news Straits Times even published an article to share that there is no quota. They want to clarify on this myth. Even though the statistics may show that there are more JC students in universities compared to poly students, It's not due to the quota, but as we mentioned earlier, Polytechnic is a work-ready certification. So not all poly graduates want to continue further studies immediately. Maybe they want to work for a few years, save up money before they further their studies, or they are not interested in studying anymore. They just want to go out and work. So again, statistics only tell one part of the story. Okay. Is it easier for JC students to enter university compared to Polytechnic students? Just now we talked about IGP, indicative grade profile. So you can see the indicative grade profile for medicine earlier was all A's. So in JC, you have to study very hard to enter medicine. Same for Polytechnic. If you want to enter medicine, your GPA has to be quite high. But it doesn't mean that it is easier. It really depends on what kind of environment are you more likely to perform well. If you are likely to perform well in an academic environment like JC, then it will be easier for you to get A and to enter medicine. If you are someone who is more strong in your project work, in more skills based learning, then it will be easier for you to get a higher GPA in poly to enter. So we are not comparing apples to oranges. It is more of orange compared to another orange, apple to another apple for entry into the course. Okay, so finally, to end off the comparison between JC Poly, think about what really matters to you and not what you hear from other people, what is good, what is bad. You have to take all this, what you see on the screen, into consideration. All the school rankings, all the culture, school culture, does it really matter as much as the content that you are learning? Think about it before you make your decision. So again, any questions? Feel free to ask me.